The terror tunnels of Hezbollah is like a totally different level. So they hid these tunnels between civilian villages. And a terrorist can enter these tunnels wearing flip-flops and just civilian clothes, looks like he's visiting his friends in Lebanon, and then exit on the other side of the tunnel, which is 100 meters away from the Israeli border and from the Israeli communities, as a full-blown terrorist.
Israel said today that it has destroyed most of Hezbollah's weapons manufacturing and storage facilities in Beirut. Yet the Iran-backed terror group continues to fire rockets and drones at Israel, killing 2 Israelis in a rocket attack just today. What is the latest on Israel's northern war? What comes next with Iran? And what do Israelis think about Donald Trump's big election win? We're joined in studio by our good friends, TBN Israel correspondents Yair Pinto and Mati Shoshani, co-hosts of the brand new TBN show, Boots on the Ground, which you can see right here every Thursday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Guys, first of all, congrats. Mazel tov.
Thank you.
On the new show. It's
Thank
great.
you, Eric.
We're loving Boots on the Ground. You just returned from an excursion into the tunnels, Hezbollah tunnels, along that Israel-Lebanon border. Yair, what did you see?
Wow, it was amazing because I'm used to the terror tunnels and infrastructure of Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Yeah. And that was complicated and, and dangerous and booby-trapped. But the terror tunnels of Hezbollah is like a totally different level. It's kilometers, which is like miles and miles, and in-depth underground. They have electricity, they have air conditionings, they have rooms that they can sleep in. And the key point is that
they're big.
They're huge.
It's not like a hole in your backyard. These were large tunnels.
And what did they do? Okay, so they hid these tunnels between villages, civilian villages. Okay, and the entrances are either in a graveyard or in the middle of a house or in the backyard of some civilian in Lebanon. So it's hidden very, very well. And a terrorist can enter these tunnels wearing flip-flops and just civilian clothes, looks like he's visiting his friends in Lebanon, and then exit on the other side of the tunnel, which is 100 meters away from the Israeli border and from the Israeli communities, as a full-blown terrorist, meaning like with equipment, with RPGs, with AK-47s, and with all the gear that he needs in order to carry out a ground invasion into northern Israel.
Wow. Mati, we want to talk more about kind of the state of things with Hezbollah, how badly they've been weakened. But it seems that the IDF averted what could have been a major disaster. It seems that Hezbollah was plotting an October 7th style invasion of northern Israel, maybe using these tunnels.
Yes, they absolutely were. And this answers really 2 big questions, I should say 3. The first one is, where were Hezbollah on October 8th? And we've been asking that question for over a year at this point. And the answer is very complex. The answer is they were taken by surprise by the Hamas. And when you look at everything that they had prepped at the border, you can do only one thing, and that is to thank God for a supernatural protection of the people of Israel. Because what they had at the border, let's say Hamas is at a 10, Hezbollah is at an 80. They are a substantial fighting force. They are heavily, heavily armed, highly trained. What we saw in those tunnels, Yair and I both, by the way, in separate weeks saw 2 different tunnel systems. And each one of them heavily equipped, got better equipment than most armies in the world. Brand new bullets, rockets, missiles, everything filling these tunnels. And you ask yourself this other question of, well, what about, the people of southern Lebanon? And it's very, very apparent when you spend time on the ground that they were involved, that they were in the know-how, that they were knowing of what Hezbollah was doing, and they were supportive. And there's someone else who was also involved, the UN forces. The UN claims that they were there to keep peace. You drive through the UN posts, and you look at the town that's above the hill. And the town, I went into Maroun Aras, you went into a different town. You look from the UN outpost, and you say it is impossible for them to not have seen what Hezbollah was doing here. They're the people...
For years.
For years, for over a decade. Over a decade. So again, it frames the whole conversation. Hezbollah could have caused an incredible amount of damage to the state of Israel, and it didn't. And we are thankful, and should be thankful long-term, to God for his protection over the people of Israel, whatever their reasoning is. And secondly, is the people of Lebanon, both government and civilians on the ground, and the UN that were supposed to prevent them, knew this was happening, and for over 10 years, I mean, at this point you could say it's quite a few years, over 15 years since the second Lebanon war ended.
Since 2005.
Yeah, 2005, 2006, they knew this was happening, and they did nothing to prevent it. And if I may, just one more point, is all the might of Iran is focused in this region. Hamas got the leftovers. The Hezbollah received the best of the Iranian money, and it is an economy, a culture, a people group who put their resources, their time, their energy, their money into bringing destruction to the civilian life of the people of Israel.
So true. Incredible. And now that's all kind of whittling away for Hezbollah. Yair, about a minute before the break, then you guys will be right back with us. But there have been reports that Hezbollah now only has about 30% of its capacity left.
Yeah.
Seems they've really been hit hard.
No, definitely. And moreover than just having 30% of the capabilities, they lost almost all of their communication abilities and their know-how, because all the leadership chain of Hezbollah is terminated. So let's say they do have the rockets, they don't have the people that know how to operate it, and they don't have the pagers and the walkie-talkies in order to communicate and to coordinate the attacks against Israel, which is a key point. So, okay, so they fire 50 rockets, which is a lot every day, but not 3,000, which is what we were planning and what we were training for 20 years since I was in the IDF, just drafted in. That was the fear. 3,000 rockets every day from Hezbollah towards the Israeli community.
Donald Trump back in the saddle.
Absolutely.
A new sheriff in town and building a very interesting team when it comes to national security, Israel, the Middle East. What's the impression in Israel so far in the wake of his big victory last week?
I'd say most people are incredibly happy about it. They're as happy about Trump as they were concerned about Harris. Harris was something we were terrified about. She said some very scary things for the state of Israel. Her, let's call it domestic issues aside, for us as Israelis, that was something of concern. Trump has been a friend of Israel, and you could say what you want about the man, but he has been, as a president, he was the best friend the state of Israel has ever had in many levels. Talk about moving back the embassy to Jerusalem, recognizing the Golan Heights, a very long list of things that he supported and vetoed in the UN and internationally. He's been an incredible ally. People are happy, and more so when you're looking for hope in the question of how do we resolve Hezbollah, Hamas, this planter, this problem of let's call it the Iranian axis, the Hezbollah, the Hamas, everything that's connected to that. How do we resolve that? There's only one answer, an outside party that brings everyone to the table. And Trump's the kind of guy that can do that, exactly that.
Yeah, he's a deal maker. He's a strong leader. And Yair, I would think that the Iranian regime right now is quaking in its boots.
Yeah, for sure. I think that they don't know what to expect now. And they understand that what they had until now, which was either no response or just, a defensive response.
Appeasement, at least by the United States.
Exactly, just to defend Israel from incoming attacks and then, try to keep everybody quiet. That is all over now. And the stakes are really high regards the future of the Ayatollah regime in Iran, and they're really afraid of that. But just to add one thing to Mati's statements about the future, I think that this is a good opportunity for a regional coalition of moderate Arab states with Israel, which is amazing. It's also a biblical, prophecy of this highway between Egypt through Jerusalem to Damascus.
Yeah, exactly. Isaiah 19 for sure.
I'm really optimistic about the future of this 4 years and the future of the Middle East. I think it will be amazing.
I want to add one more thought. People misunderstand oftentimes the use of violence, and I'll explain that statement. Trump can be looked at, and was in his previous presidency, as like a loose cannon when it comes to using power. But in the Middle East, that's exactly what you need, because it's not just a question of do you have the guns, it's are you willing to use them? And he is. Several American high-ranking officers, including the previous head of CENTCOM, came out and said, we were operating with our hands tied in the Arabian Sea. And it's not because the American government was afraid to use power, it's they didn't want to demonstrate the fact that they're willing to go farther than their enemies. And that's what you need. You need someone who's willing to say, I will punish you for misbehaving. And that's the kind of thing that brings peace in a region. I know it's counterintuitive, but that's exactly what you need.
That's how the Middle East operates, for sure.
So true.
You can't just bark. You need to be able also to bite.
There's got to be teeth behind it. And the Houthis were operating with impunity in the Red Sea. I said, what is the U.S. doing? This U.S.-UK coalition, yet Israel, in the 2 times it strikes the Houthis, it certainly sent a message at that Hodeida port. Mati, the Abraham Accords, we were talking off camera, guys. Look, Saudi Arabia, it seems like this could be on the table right now with Trump coming back into office. He was the architect, the first go-round of peace with the UAE, Bahrain, Morocco. This could be an exciting time of opportunity for the region.
Exactly. I mean, if you look back, it's easy to forget right now, but just before the war broke out on October 7th of last year, we were in deep discussions with the Saudis of some kind of normalization. Maybe not a full-on agreement as part of the Abraham Accords, but something substantial. Now, that's probably back on the table. They're looking for a strong ally in the U.S. Trump in the White House gives them that. It gives them a strong and resolute president in the White House who can push for an agreement and back the agreement, which is important. Then it gives the Saudis the guts to go against everyone else in the region and say, look, we're not afraid of the Iranians, we're not afraid of your terrorist friends, the Houthis or whoever it is, we're going for this. And that sort of rallies everyone towards this and brings an option of normalization with the Saudis, which is huge for the Middle East.
Yeah. Moreover, I think that it's also an option for a future for the Gaza Strip and for the Palestinians in Israel, because if you bring an international body that can govern all these millions of Palestinians, that is not a terrorist organization, that's the only chance of a future for the Palestinian people, especially in the Gaza Strip.
Yeah. These are the positive results of peace through strength. It really works. And Trump is showing that once again. Yair, about 30 seconds left before the break. It seems that evil is on the run now for the first time in a long time, and Iran's really on its back heels.
It looks amazing to see it, because we see that all the investment of, 20 years or even more in infrastructure and creating this ring of fire around Israel is just collapsing. And it's really encouraging to see that God is again protecting Israel against all odds, against 7 different fronts. And he's all the glory to him. It's not just because of the IDF or our Iron Dome anti-rocket defense systems.
Mati, what is the morale on the ground for the people of Israel who've been affected by this?
It's still high. The people of Israel have a very, very, very strong sense of why we're in this world. We know we're in it together, and we know we're in it for a greater cause. And if anything, October 7th of 2023 strengthened that understanding. We're here for a reason. God called us for this reason, and we need to fight for it. But that doesn't come without a price. And I think for me personally, there's been a moment of clarity on the sense that everything of promise and everything of significance comes with sacrifice in life. And people have been sacrificing. I think we're going on 8 months in reserves at this point. Yael, again, a considerable amount of time. And the same case for many, many Israelis who've served for almost the entirety of the last year.
Leaving families, kids. I mean, I spoke to both of you throughout that period. Yair, the day of, I think October 7th, you were out. You're off to battle to defend your country.
We were sent to the border with Lebanon on the morning of October 7th. And I think that, in Israel, we keep saying that Israel does not have the luxury to lose any war, because if we lose a war, that's it. We're extinct. And this war is another proof of this situation, that we have to be united, we have to be strong, we have to fight. But it doesn't come without a price. I have 3 kids back at home. And imagine that I need to train them to go to the bomb shelter, which we have in our house. The baby's room is the bomb shelter. In every Israeli house, one of the rooms is the bomb shelter, usually one of the kids' rooms. And within a notice of a minute or a minute and a half, we have to go into the bomb shelter, and the kids are trained to do that. It's not normal. We laugh about it now and we think, okay, we're used to it, but it's not a normal situation. And it takes a toll on the mental situation of the country. But, God is good, and he's also helping in this area to the people of Israel.
I think the average American can't wrap their heads around that, what you've had to deal with the past 13 months. Guys, I want to talk about the economic and the spiritual impact of what we've seen. Economically, look, northern Israel, pretty much a ghost town. Tens of thousands of Israelis evacuated, and the communities around southern Israel as well, near the Gaza border. Israel's the size of the state of New Jersey. Not a good thing when a country that small has entire regions effectively shut down. Have you seen economic ramifications? Yair, first you, then Mati.
Definitely. Listen, I would say that I have family members that used to live on the northern border with Lebanon, and for 13 months now they live in hotels in the area of Jerusalem or in the Dead Sea. During this time, most of them do not work, and the kids are going to these made-up schools. So imagine the burden on the economy of the country that needs to support something like 60 or 80,000 Israelis that are basically refugees in their own countries.
For over a year.
And then a huge amount of Israelis also go to serve in the IDF as reserve units, also leaving their jobs and getting paid from the government, from the taxes of Israel. It's a huge burden for the state.
It surely is. Mati, economic and spiritual impact, which you've talked about as well. Some good things certainly on that end.
I'll start with the hard. The hard part is the economy. We've taken a hit and we see it in every metric. You see it in inflation, you see it in national debt, you see it in a ballooning effect on our national budget, which was just passed about 2 weeks ago. You can see it in every area. You can see a rise in unemployment and a huge amount of public spending on reserve days. Again, I run a company. I spent 7.5 months straight in the army. So the company is suffering and the army is paying you a salary at the same time. And the same is happening to hundreds of thousands of Israelis, where you see the effect on the economy. It's affected also in the sense that something Americans might not understand is that there's been international pressure on Israel from other countries saying, let's boycott Israel for what they're doing. I'm doing air quotes here, what they're doing in Gaza, the war crimes, etc. So let's prevent them from exporting. Let's prevent sales to them and stuff like that. Here's the positive. The positive is that on a personal level and on a national level, change and growth only happen under pressure. They never happen in times of goodness. They never happen in times of prosperity. They happen when you're pressed. They happen when you have a question mark about every area in your life. And that's where we are. We've been there for a year. We've had personal pressures on our lives. We've had collective pressure as a people. We've experienced fear. We've experienced depression, doubt about our place in the world and everything that goes with that. And you can come out of that with two different directions. The negative is, if you lack clarity on why you're in this world, is you get lost and you lose hope. But if you do have clarity on why you're here in this world, and we as a people in Israel overall have a very strong sense of why. We are here because we're God's people in God's land doing His bidding. And when you have that sense of direction, it emboldens you, it strengthens you, it gives you a sense of bravery and direction that we lacked before that. I feel that personally, and I've seen that in the hearts and the eyes of many other people around me.
Stakelbeck Tonight, my all-new nightly series on current events through a bold biblical lens. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload, and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching, and God bless.